Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. Today in the Daily Review, we discuss a Merchant Ivory movie. It's called A Room with a View, much like my room. With your host, me, Professor Joe LaRocca. This is stars Helena Bonham Carter, Daniel Day-Lewis, Julian Sands, Maggie Smith, not Judy Davis. What's her name? The other one that's old and she usually plays Elizabeth II, Judi Dench, the old dentures as they call her. So Merchant Ivory was they made like 20 movies together. They were a team that I just recently found out they were romantically involved, despite the fact that they were both men. So that's pretty cool. They had a 44-year relationship, intimate relationship and working relationship, and you can feel the passion on the screen. These movies, I mean, I've only seen a couple of them. I don't know. It's Howard's End is one of them. This one, I was always told to watch this because you guys know I studied abroad in Florence for like 4 months a long time ago, and when we went abroad, they were like, list of movies that were shot in Florence that you might want to check out. A Room with a View, Hannibal. the Hannibal Lecter prequel or whatever. I was like, that doesn't make the city look very inviting. Anyway, yeah, this is it's about social mores and to really bring it all into perspective on like what that means. It's a time period when wealthy women were not allowed to be alone with a man, even if they were like 19 or 20, like they're old enough. They're not like little kids. So I think when you think about it like that, because that comes up a lot, and it happened one night, and Some Like It Hot, and it's like, okay, you got to imagine that is like kind of a baseline, that it was seen as uncouth to be alone with someone of the opposite sex. So you're coming from that, because a lot of this, if this were a modern love story, you'd be like, yeah, just break it off with this guy and start dating this guy. Movie over. But obviously, what do you do when there are things in the way? So essentially, she very, very wealthy. Our main character here, whose name I've already forgotten, but which is ridiculous. Sorry, Helena Bonham Carter, and she goes. She's spending some time in Italy and went on like a little excursion to Florence. She's mainly based in Rome. She meets Julian Sands' character, George Emerson, and his father, Mr. Emerson, and they all kind of hang out, and he steals a kiss from her in this romantic field one day, and she never forgets it, and he never forgets it, and then they go back to England, and all sorts of things happen. Most notably, we learn of Daniel Day-Lewis, who is the man that she is engaged to, Mr. Weiss, and he is the most despicable human being. That's what Daniel Day-Lewis said. I just tried to be like the worst possible person you could ever imagine. He's just like only cares about books, and he's super arrogant, and he's like dispassionate, and he doesn't even realize that he doesn't understand women or want to understand women. He just wants them as like a possession. And Daniel Day-Lewis is so good in it, because that same year he was in My Beautiful Laundrette, in which he plays an ex-skinhead gay guy in a relationship with a Pakistani immigrant in London, and it's like a very, very different character, and it's crazy that they came out at the same time. It's just like, okay, yeah, this guy's the best. Anyway, yeah, it's about passion versus possession, and there's some really great stuff in it. All the performances are great, and it's kind of like a warm hangout movie. You just kind of like the vibe of it, because there's no real problems ever. There's no like, oh, this person got stabbed, or well, actually somebody does get stabbed and dies, but other than that, that's a good point. But there's not like miscarriage, and people don't get terminally ill, and there's not like a war doesn't break out. So you can kind of just go like, knowing that it's probably going to go in the right direction. It doesn't have a tragic vibe to it. That you're just like, okay, We're going to explore these characters, and hopefully they will reveal things about ourselves. Like, hey, let's try not to be so much like Mr. Vice. Maybe try and be a little bit more like George Emerson, if it's possible, you know? And yeah, I think that there's kind of a flaw in the movie because it's about like female independence, right? Women like having their breaking through this society and having their own say in matters and stuff like that. Yet she, and I know it's because she does love George Emerson, but she just ends up like another man has to make up her mind for her, and then she just ends up parroting his words, saying the same thing, like that, basically saying the things that George told her to say, which is a little bit of a paradox, you know, when she lies to Cecil. So, I don't know. Pretty interesting movie. There's inner titles, too, which is strange, like little chapter titles. And sometimes they happen over the screen, like a sentence, and sometimes it'll be like, lying to George with a little doodad. It's interesting. I wonder if that's in all Merchant Ivory movies. I'll have to look. Anyway, that's it. It's on HBO Max. If this is the kind of movie you like, it's definitely a good romance, and you get beautiful scenes around Florence, which always makes me happy. One of my favorite cities. Okay, bye. The only thing that's impossible is to love and to part.